Sox rally from behind and take game one of this wild card 3-1.
The baseball yesterday was outstanding. The pitching all day long, incredible. Started with Skubal in the Tigers game. Excellent sort of collective pitching in the Cubs-Padres game. And then last night, that Yankees-Red Sox game, you knew the environment was going to be amazing. I mean, that place was an unbelievably lit atmosphere. But to have Chapman come in for a 4-out save after Garrett Crochet retired 17 consecutive Yankees, but Chapman in the ninth, bases loaded, nobody out, up 3-1. And to get out of it the way he did, it was great sports theater last night. Baseball always provides it this time of year, and day one was really, really good. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I mean, when they loaded the bases up in the bottom of the ninth with nobody out, I thought for sure something big was coming. Stanton had the first opportunity, and I thought this is going to light the night up. He's going to hit something out of the park, or he's going to hit, a double, which is going to score 2 and maybe 3 and win it. He went down, Chisholm went down, and then Grisham struck out swinging to end the game on a 101-mile-per-hour four-seam fastball. It was riveting last night to watch Chapman go back and beat his former team with a 4-out save. When he came in the eighth, there was a runner on, and it really bothered him. He ended up, being charged a base on throwing over for a third time to keep the runner pinned to first. Great baseball on day one. We've got another quadruple header today with the same lineup, same order. Detroit, Cleveland, with now Detroit having a chance to eliminate the Guardians, after. I wonder if people in Cleveland deal with it the same way we do. I don't know what the answer to that is. Meaning when you say Indians, yeah, it's okay. Like you say Redskins, we get it. It's fine. It's fine. I have no idea. But after the historic 15.5 game, comeback from July 8th to the American League Central crown, they are on the verge of going down into straight. Cubs, Padres, same thing, and the Yankees will try to stay alive, as will the Reds. The Reds were a massive underdog. I would have much rather. I know a lot of you Nats fans are like, oh, it's so great the Mets didn't make the playoffs. I wanted to see Juan Soto. I wanted to see Soto against the Dodgers. Can't wait to see Bryce against the Dodgers in the next round. Good baseball this time of year. We always forget about it. We'll have hockey a week from tomorrow night and basketball a few weeks away. But will it be easy to watch the Wizards and the Capitals this year? John Oran's going to jump on with us at 11:25 to explain the developing situation, especially for you and me, YouTube TV people, watching our hometown teams when their seasons begin. I got this from, where is it? I had it here a second. I got this from Daniel J. Kevin, the 10-minute overtime is a joke. The new rule is going to lead to situations in which a tie is more probable. Yes, Daniel J., I've been talking about this since they changed the rule. I like the fact that both teams are now going to be guaranteed a possession in the NFL regular season. That rule had changed in the playoffs a few years ago after, remember, New England in Mahomes' first AFC title game went to overtime, got the ball, and Mahomes never had a chance to touch the football. And then we had the same thing in the Buffalo-Kansas City playoff game, that unbelievable game from a few years ago. Buffalo never had a chance to touch the football. Yeah, I like that they've moved that rule into the regular season, but you can't have it be a 10-minute overtime. Safety is always the preference here and is always the default. The problem is that, A, you could potentially end the game on one possession, We saw last Monday night, a week ago Monday night, the Detroit-Baltimore game. We saw the Lions go on an 18-play, 10-minute, 37-second drive. You could do that in overtime, especially if you're intentionally trying to milk the clock. Now, the other team has 2 timeouts that they can use defensively, and there's a 2-minute warning, but you could certainly see and envision an overtime game ending with either a field goal at the gun to win it with the other team not getting a chance. And just so you know, it's a 10-minute overtime. So if somebody takes the ball on the kickoff, and let's just say they after a penalty, they start from their own 11-yard line. So it's a long drive possibility. And they go on a long drive, and the other team burns their timeouts, and you get beyond the 2-minute warning. Well, that team on offense is then, if they're in position to do it, they're going to do what they would do at the end of regulation. They're going to take a knee, they're going to run the clock down, and they're going to kick a walk-off field goal. And at that point, no, the rule does not extend the overtime time-wise to guarantee the other team a possession. So actually, the other team isn't guaranteed a possession. They just will get possession if there's time left on the clock. But beyond that, it's not just a walk-off possibility. What if you score a touchdown with 1:35 left in overtime, or even 2 minutes left, or 2.5 minutes left in overtime? Now the other team has to match for a touchdown in a lot less time, potentially with some timeouts left, maybe not, and they've got to approach that offensive possession much differently. The NFL's got to change this. They've got to go to a 15-minute overtime, or we will end up with the possibility of more ties, meaning, let's just say a long drive ends in a field goal, and then the other team only has time to get in range for a field goal. I thought the Packers were way too passive offensively. If you stayed up and watched the game on Sunday night, Dallas, first of all, decided to kick on a 4th and goal situation when Parsons chased down and tackled Prescott from behind. It actually was registered as a 0 gain, but that is a sack by statistical rule. And Parsons was credited with the sack. Dallas decided not to go for it and go for the touchdown. They kicked the field goal. And then Green Bay got very passive on their possession when they got down deep into Dallas territory with still well over a minute to go in the game. And they decided they were going to play almost for either a walk-off touchdown or a walk-off field goal to tie, because they didn't want to end up kicking a field goal and leaving time left for Brandon Aubrey, who now, essentially you're one completion away after a big kickoff return from Turpin from kicking a field goal. That's playing into it too. Now, we have seen in the 2 overtime games this year, the Giant-Cowboy game and the Cowboy-Packer game, the team that has won the toss has elected to kick, which is exactly what I thought would happen, because you want to know what you need when you get the ball back. And if you get the ball back down 3 or down 7, you now have 4 downs. There's an advantage to taking the ball second, unless there's no time left, which is the scenario that I just painted that is possible in a 10-minute overtime. I think we will see teams continue to choose kickoff in overtime. It's the right move. It's the thing that Kyle Shanahan couldn't figure out in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. You kick off because, assuming, and it is more likely than not, you're going to get a possession. When you get that possession, you know exactly what you need. We need a touchdown. We need a field goal. Whatever it is, it's the reason that in the college overtime rule, you never take the ball first. You always take the ball second. You have 4 downs now, not 3. Punt is no longer an option if you're behind, for sure. And you have the knowledge of exactly what you need. But yeah, I do think that the NFL, in what they typically do, they will, the default is on safety, and they're concerned about another 5 minutes for, by the way, how many games a year? 10, 12 games a year that would go to overtime and then go beyond 10 minutes in the overtime. Now, with this new rule, it's more likely than not that you would go beyond 10 minutes versus the old rule, but they're going to have to extend it to 15 minutes. I completely agree with you Daniel J. Appreciate that. From Garrett, Kevin. So we've discussed the problems, but to go full Sheehan, what's the solution to the defense? Yeah. That is kind of, what they have to figure out more than we do. But of course, we like to play coach and GM when it comes to this sport. And I agree. There's a solution here. First of all, you do have to identify what the problems are to come up with a reasonable solution. And I think that's part of the problem with coming up with the solution. I am not averse to having this conversation and inviting some of your ideas on what the defensive solution is. But you have to identify the problem, and you've got to be sure of what the problem is before you come up with a solution. And I think that's the problem right now. I mean, I have talked to a number of people who have all essentially said the same thing. It's not one thing. It's not Joe Witt Jr. exclusively. It's not Marshawn Lattimore exclusively. It's not Mikey Sanders playing on the inside versus the outside exclusively. It's not Bobby Wagner being caught in coverage exclusively. It's not Daron Payne having one great game and then missing a bunch of tackles in the next game exclusively. See how I took a shot at one of my favorite players. I did go back and watch the All-22. Daron Payne missed a bunch of tackles. Man, there is nobody that is as good as he is when he's on and as absent at times as he is when he's not. More on that later on. But the issue, at least I believe, based on some of the conversations I've had, is not exclusive to one area. Now, that makes it hard to come up with what the solution is. Now, maybe you have a different view and you've identified the problem. It's Joe Witt Jr.'s scheme. It's Joe Witt Jr.'s play calling. It's Marshawn Lattimore. It's the safeties. It's Quan Martin. He's not, a deep, safety. He's not a free safety. He's really better in the box. Whatever you think it is. I think there are a couple of issues here. I think that, number one, when you see that much coverage miscommunication, there is an element of coach, scheme, play calling involved, because it's not been just one player that has struggled in coverage. We've had a couple of players. The safeties have struggled. Will Harris, is going to be a loss and will be felt. But in that Green Bay game, he got fooled multiple times by the Packers, where he thought, I'm in run fit when actually here goes Tucker Kraft right by him. And Tucker Kraft was his responsibility. So I think that coverage and the miscommunications and the issues they've had in coverage, some of that has to speak to, is it too complicated? Is it the right scheme? Is it the right play call? Is it the right play call for some situations, but not for that particular situation? Why are we having Marshawn Lattimore exclusively identified as, we can't let him press off the line of scrimmage, so we're going to motion to death this team because we know they're not going to pass him off. We know that they're not going to switch, in a basketball term. There's some element of that. There's no doubt in my mind. The other part, though, is, yes, bad tackling can be a coaching issue, but it can also be a personnel issue, an execution issue. They were a bad tackling team on Sunday. Bad. Against a team that you couldn't be a bad tackling team against. You can't bad tackle Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier and expect to get off the field, and force punts. There were 2 punts in the game. And let's face it, one of them was at the end of the first half when Atlanta really wasn't trying to score at the very end when they gave up on that opportunity. So it was really one legitimate punt in the game. You're not going to win many games unless you get turnovers, forcing the other team to punt once in a game. So I think the problem is multi. I think it's all over the place. I also think that they've improved in an area in which they were really, really bad last year. They're a better run-stopping team this year than they were last year. And watching the all 22 of the game, one of our callers, Aveen, who's always got a pretty sharp opinion, and he said, I'm actually not that concerned about the run defense after Sunday. There were a lot of really good run stops in the game. You just played a special running back in Bijan Robinson who can make people miss, who can break tackles, etc. But they were there for a lot of the stops. And I think that's true now. I think in looking at the game a little bit more closely, they had a chance to have a much better run-stopping day. It also could have been worse had they, it could have been worse in that Atlanta really did seem to catch them at times in defenses where Bijan had even bigger opportunities. But what I was going to say is this. The tackling was bad. The run fit consistency wasn't. They were there for a lot of plays, and they had 6 tackles for loss in the game on rundowns. That's really impressive. Take away the 1 sack in the game, which was Luvu's sack. Wagner, Lattimore, actually, Dorrance Armstrong, Kinlaw, that was a memorable one. Paynes was the play on Bijan Robinson that forced the fumble. And then Eddie Goldman on a 3rd and 1. And there were other opportunities. So I do think that through 4 games, I feel better about their ability to stop the run. Or I'm not going to tell you that they're going to be a great run-stopping team or even a good run-stopping team, but they're going to be a lot better than they were last year. And that was the biggest issue on defense, was stopping the run. This year, through 4 games, it appears that the bigger issue is in coverage. So what's the solution? For me, I think the coverage issue is the issue. I'm going to give you some of my conversation with Fred Smoot the other day, who came up with a bit of a solution and a plan. And I'll just share some of it with you. And it was to simplify everything. That's always kind of a default on when things are going wrong. Let's simplify it, especially when you've got younger players. Not that Washington has younger players. They've got one super young player, 2 of them really, and Sandra Still and Amos in the back end. I would suggest the following, and I'm not even sure I'm right about this, but I think they're better against the run. They've been very porous in coverage. For me, in looking at the coverage, the worst cover guy, whether it's because of motions, whether it's because of scheme, but even when he is lined up and playing press, Marshawn Lattimore has been the weakest corner for this team. And yes, it's not looking great in terms of, the trade, which, again, I would never go back in 2020 hindsight this thing. I loved the trade in the moment. I thought this is a recalibration of the recalibration. They should be going for it. And it's not a rental. If it had been a rental, I would have had a problem with it in the moment. It wasn't a rental. This guy had contract life left. And the issue with him was just being healthy. Wasn't healthy last year, is healthy this year, and isn't performing at a high level. I'm not discounting the real possibility that part of this is on scheme, play calling, etc. I think there's probably some of that involved. But if you ask me for one thing that I wouldn't have a problem if they ended up doing it, it would be to bench Marshawn Lattimore, move Sandra Still outside, and bring in Igben Ogeni to play the slot, as he did last year before the trade. I also think there's a bit of a safety issue without Will Harris. I agree Quan Martin's not playing at the level I thought he was playing at the end of last year. Jeremy Reeves is certainly a hustler and a hitter, but the safety position is a bit dicey right now. Maybe Darnell Savage can help on that end. in the coming weeks as he gets more acclimated. Maybe Tyler Owens has to play more. But if you're asking me I have to give at least one answer to a solution defensively. I'm just going to go with, I think Marshawn Lattimore is playing poorly, whether it's scheme issued or not. And I would look to move him to the bench and go with Mikey Sanderstill, who played very well on the outside last year, and with Trey Amos, and then bringing in Noah I as my nickel corner. 301-230-0980. 301-230-0980. I want one thing that you would do defensively to try to improve the situation, which right now, in this moment, after the game on Sunday against Atlanta, looks like it's developed into the weakness and the issue with the team for the second consecutive year. Defense was the weakness last year. I know that there were outstanding performances against the Giants, to the Raiders, lesser extent with the Raiders. The Raiders had some big plays. They had some big plays in the passing game. We know that. Now, Will Harris left the game, and maybe it was an adjustment there that they couldn't make in game. But I want one thing that you feel confident would be a part of the solution defensively. I gave you mine, and I'm hesitant to give it because I believe that what I've heard, that this is not just one issue. And by the way, I think in Quinn's tone, in the way he spoke after the game and the way he spoke on Monday, I think you recognize that he is concerned about some of the things that are going on defensively. Look, there are extreme measurements. This team's already, by the way, proven they'll make changes if they think there are issues. We've seen it on offense. Brandon Coleman inactive, and Chris Paul in, Allegretti benched, Andrew Wiley in. So I'm not going to be surprised if on Sunday there is a surprise development with personnel on defense. But, the extreme would be, and I don't even think this is a possibility, to fire Joe Witt Jr. I do not think that's a possibility. What would be an extreme, and I don't think this is a great possibility, but I would not discount it if there's another 2 or 3 games like the game on Sunday against Atlanta, especially if they lose some of those games because of their defense, to see Dan Quinn take play calling responsibilities defensively. This is the first job he's had in which he hasn't done that. That's not what my one solution would be right now. If I had to go to one, because you're forcing me to pick one, I think Lattimore is struggling. And I'm sure it's not all him, but he has struggled more than anybody else. Maybe Quan Martin, maybe the safeties in general, but Marshawn Lattimore would be the one that I would say, all right, I have to make one change. I'm moving Sanderstill back outside, and I'm moving Noah I into the slot. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. I want one solution. You have to come up with one idea to fix the defense. What's that one idea? Kevin Sheehan Show right here on the Team 980. We're also on the Odyssey app. If you want to download that, you can listen to us wherever you are, wherever you go. And you can watch this show on the Team 980's YouTube channel. Just hit the subscribe button and the like button when you get there.
Hi, Dan. In terms of, excuse me, the pass rush yesterday, what did you see that you thought led to not as much success as you've seen from that unit?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I thought, when are we going to take our shots, when to go? I thought early on, I thought they did a nice job of, getting rid of the ball quickly, to get, intermediate throws to go. But the ones that are down the field, Howard, those are the ones that we've got to capitalize on. I thought we could have stunted more to try to, put the offensive line in some disadvantages to go. When you have good balance like they had yesterday, you're not teeing off to go. But I do feel like, we've got to get them off the spot. We had a number of chances, and we didn't nail those yesterday like we had the week before. That would be my main take. And then, honestly, like I said, at the end of the game, not being able to close, Howard, on the third downs, I thought that was, the biggest factor here. We had some chances here to get them in some third downs that you can get off the field. And when we didn't, and Joe tried, 3 different ones, a zone, a man pressure. And so we got to be able to nail those when those come up. That's for sure.
Dan Quinn on Monday, after he had watched the tape of the loss Sunday in Atlanta, 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. One solution, your number one solution, if you're forced to give one to fix the defense, is what? Let me just once again reiterate, because this is important from my standpoint. I'm much more into solutions than I am going back and playing the blame game, even though we do it a lot. I think it's hard to come up with a solution when you're not exactly sure what the problem is. I think the problem is defensively. What's also ironic about this whole conversation is we couldn't have had this conversation after the Giant game or even the Raider game, for that matter. I mean, they the pressure they got on Geno Smith and the disruption up front against the Raiders left nobody thinking that there were any issues defensively. This is the up and down roller coaster nature of this league. But I think what we've seen now against the two better and more capable offensive teams in this league, and they've got several of them coming up, over the next several weeks. I think that, there's an issue here. Once again, this looks like the problem, taking, a macro view of this team offensively. Look, without Jaden and without Terry, they put up 27 points, without, by the way, getting, super short fields, except in the Sanderstill situation. And the kickoff situation, that was a big kickoff return by Luke McCaffrey. It does appear, we might have a different opinion this coming week if they shut down Justin Herbert, if they do to the Chargers what the Giants did to the Chargers. But I think there's a problem. I think we would all admit it. Identifying what the problem is or what the problems are is harder. Again, my information is nobody believes it's just one thing. Nobody believes it's just scheme and play calling. Nobody believes it's just Marshawn Lattimore. Nobody believes it's the safeties exclusively. Kime wrote a good story, and I actually just read it for the first time because somebody just sent it to me during the break yesterday on the defense, and there's some good quotes in here. Dorrance Armstrong, we've got to figure out what we're doing wrong and get it right ASAP. There's definitely a belief out there that there's something going on, and it's an issue. And again, it's not just one thing. John had some really interesting data and information in his story. In each of the next 6 weeks, Washington's opposing quarterback ranks in the top 15 total QBR. 4 of those in the next 6 weeks are top 9 in total QBR. And 5 of them rank in the top 12 for pass plays that gain 15 yards or more. Washington currently ranks last in the league in the number of such plays allowed, pass plays that go for 15 yards or more. There's a lot of discussion from guys like Jeremy Reeves and Will Harris, reiterating some of what Joe Witt talked about last week, which is eye discipline, eye control, communication on the back end. Washington's allowed 20 pass plays of 15 yards or longer, and they allowed 8 on Sunday against Atlanta. This is an issue for sure. The other piece of information, very interesting from John in this story. No team is allowed more pass plays of 15 yards or more while facing motion than Washington with 11, and 6 of those occurred Sunday. Atlanta gained 328 yards Sunday while using motion. That tactic also hurt them in week 2 versus Green Bay, which gained 187 yards when using motion versus Washington, 126 through the air. So in their 2 losses, they've given up 839 yards total, but 515 yards of that 839 in the 2 losses to Green Bay and Atlanta were versus motion. And remember, that's not just passing yards. It's passing and rushing yards. They got something going on back there. One solution, one idea. I think it's really hard to come up with this, and I think I'm asking a question that it's going to be very hard for you guys to answer because we don't have all of the information here. But if you forced me to make one decision, just because I do think he's struggling, whether it's all about him or just partially about him, of the corners, and Sanders still hasn't been great, although I thought he played better on Sunday. I thought he was actually good in the run game when there were a lot of missed tackles. But my one solution, gun to head, forced to make one, I'm going to sit Lattimore for a while, and I'm going to move Sanders still outside and Noah I back inside. What's your one solution? It could be extreme, like we're moving on from Joe Witt Jr. They're not going to do that. Or the lesser of the extreme answers, Dan Quinn takes over play calling. Or it could be personnel related. Or it could just be coach him up better. I will say one thing before I ask Max for his answer, and then we get to the phone lines. I talked about this yesterday because Quinn talked about, the pass rush could have been better on Sunday, and that's true. But I don't think you can, even though the pass rush has been improved, run stopping's been improved, and the pass rush until Sunday had been fairly effective. Again, you have to say, caveat, 2 opponents were really not good on those days or set up to be good on those days offensively because they were really hurting along the offensive line. And in the Raiders' case, they weren't very good along the offensive line to begin with. And Washington dominated the line of scrimmage against the Giants and against the Raiders. But I think the one problem with saying, well, if we can just be consistent as a pass rush team, that will elevate the back end. That is true, but it's hard to be consistent pass rush wise when you don't have a special pass rusher. And they don't. The Giants have 3 of them. They've got 4 of them, you could say. They've got Carter, they've got Burns, they've got Thibodeau, and they've got Dexter Lawrence. They have 4 A-level defensive players when it comes to disrupting an offense. Washington really doesn't have one. They've got a couple of good ones. I think Armstrong's playing at a high level this year. I think, Kinlaw's playing at a high level, but they don't have the guy that scares the crap out of the opposing offensive coordinator. They don't have the guy that elevates everything around them. There's so much attention on this player that everybody else gets to eat. And I think if you're relying on the pass rush to mask the back end issues week in and week out, there are going to be some games where they get lit up against good teams, good quarterbacks, because they don't have a guy week in and week out that can demand that team game plan around that player. Max, you have to come up with one idea to fix the defense. What is it?
Listen, man, there's been a lot said these past couple weeks since the start of the season about Marshawn Lattimore. It has not been great, especially in press man and like you said, against motion. One way that I think that we could kind of remove him from running with a guy would be not putting him on the bench, but putting him up top at safety. Like that's usually the dead man walking for.
You want Lattimore making a D'Angelo Hall late season career move to safety?
It could. Listen, I'm throwing out ideas here. It's not, things are not working.
You didn't trade 3 picks for Lattimore to be a safety.
It's true you didn't, but man, you got to make do with what you got at this point because it has not looked good.
Okay,
at any point.
That's a good. By the way, that is one that I bet a lot of people out there listening haven't thought of. We move Lattimore to safety, and we move Sanders still outside with Amos and Noah I inside when we're nickel, right?
Yeah, and then if we need a more physical presence, we bring Jeremy Reeves down and put him in the box and have Marshawn Lattimore.
I think
sit
Quan
over top.
Martin's a better box player. Yeah. I think he's more suited to be a closer to the line of scrimmage player. He just doesn't. I like Quan Martin. He doesn't have the range to play free safety. I don't think Reeves does either.
Yeah,
safety is an issue with the loss of Will Harris.
Big time. He was a big a sticking point, especially through the first couple games that he was playing. He looked pretty good. Like he had some busts against Green Bay, but I mean, God knows the entire secondary did. So losing him is a big blow, and I don't know if you're going to get the same out of Darnell Savage. So Marshawn Lattimore, get back there, man. We'll put you 12 yards off the ball. Hope you don't get beat deep downfield.
All right, let's get to the phone lines. You got to come up with one solution to fix the defense. Kurt in District Heights, what's that one solution?
Hey, Kevin, how you doing?
I'm well, Kurt.
I think you hit on all the points, really. It's really nothing to add, but the one thing you did mention is the one thing that I have to say. I think, Mikey needs to go to outside, because Mikey on the inside, I think long-term he's better on the inside, but there's a learning curve for him at the pro level on the inside. He went through that learning curve last year on the outside. So right now, he's better on the outside and put Noah Iron on the, inside and sit Lattimore. But I just wanted to add, I think the coaching staff, they had some fool's gold there last year because their run defense was so bad. It made their pass defense look good in terms of the numbers. So I think that they went all in to fix the run, assuming that their pass defense was better than what it was. And I think that had a lot to do with what's going on now. Those points you made were great. And I think that's the move right there. But they also need to sit Lattimore and tell Lattimore to just play. If he gets beat by a step, don't hold. Don't be all in nobody's face, woofing and barking. Just play. If you get beat by a step, turn and look for the ball and play. I think that's what Lattimore needs to do, and he needs to sit down on the bench and think about that.
Yeah, keep in mind, and you make a great point. The pass defense numbers, if you're just a box score reader or a stat line reader, you're like, wow, Washington had a pretty highly ranked pass defense. Well, that was because it was so easy to run against them, and they got run on much of the year, and they were nickel too much, and they got run on. But they knew there was an issue because they drafted Trey Amos. They traded for Marshawn Lattimore, at the trade deadline. So they did recognize there's an issue. They liked Will Harris more than they liked Jeremy Chin. They wanted an upgrade there. So it's just that they've lost Will Harris. And let's face it, if you look at this defense, there are a few players that we expected, this year would take a big step forward from a really solid season last year. Sanders still is one. Luvu is another. And I think a lot of people were expecting Quan Martin, with the way the season ended for him, to take that next step forward. And they haven't gotten, excellent performances from any of those. There's not been an indication that they've taken that next step. I was a big fan of Luvu last year. I think Luvu last year was debatably the second best player on the team. And, if we're going to debate, the where players rank, you have to start at number 2 because Jaden was clear in a way the best player on the team last year. I thought you could make the case for Luvu, and I was really excited to see what Luvu was going to develop into. It's only 4 games. But he hasn't been what he was last year. You got one go-to fix you've got to come up with for the defense. What is it? Mike in Silver Spring, go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think Lattimore is past his prime. He's always a step or two behind. I don't really think he can cover anymore. So I'm in favor of benching him. I wasn't in favor of the trade in the first place, but I think something else that could help that is if Dan Quinn starts calling the defense. He's been a defensive guy pretty much his whole life, and I think he knows what he wants and what he needs, and I don't think it would take away from the defensive coordinator's position if Quinn took on that
it would.
responsibility.
That would be dead man walking in terms of Joe Witt Jr. as a defensive coordinator. Don't you think?
You really think so?
Yeah, I do. I think if Quinn took back play calling from him, we'd have a new defensive coordinator next year.
Well, maybe that's not such a bad thing, but I think Quinn would bring a lot to the defense, but Lattimore has got to go sit down.
Again, I appreciate the call. I don't feel strongly about any ideas that I have because, again, I don't know that we really understand what the issues are. Yes, the numbers when teams motion against them are not good. They're terrible. For whatever reason, Quinn and, over the years has an issue with Shanahan-style offenses, and they've been very bad against the two they have faced. Green Bay with Matt LaFleur and Zach Robinson, the OC in Atlanta. Although, actually, what Atlanta does is similar in many ways, but out of different formations. They're in the pistol a lot more than Jordan Love is. But yeah, I think it's hard. But for me, it's like I can tell that Marshawn Lattimore, no matter what situation he's been in, even if it's an advantageous situation, he has not played well. So that, I could point to that. I could point to Bobby Wagner in coverage. I could point to the tackling clearly, in the last game. Is that a coaching issue? Not necessarily. That can be an execution issue because I'll tell you what, I think run defense, after going back and watching it, I think they were in good position to be even better results-wise against the run. It was their worst run defensive performance of the season, but it wasn't as bad as I think it felt when we were watching it. Like, I'll be the first to admit, when I saw Bijan Robinson's final numbers, 17 carries, 75 yards, I know he had the 69-yard swing pass. I thought he was at $125 minimum. I thought he was at 5-6 yards a carry. He was at 4.5 yards per carry. Not good enough defensively, but it was better than what I thought statistically. And then when I watched it on the All-22, it was much better than I thought. There were a couple of players that I thought, I didn't really identify any defensive players that played well. Deron Payne, one of my favorite players when he's on, too many missed tackles for a lot of guys. And by the way, Bijan's going to make you miss a lot. Let's go to Montel in Frederick. You can make one defensive change to kind of create a better defense. What's that one change you'd make?
Hey, Kevin, how you doing, buddy?
Good, Montel.
I have a few things, but I'm gonna give you the one. But I just wanted to go real quick because last year we had a conversation, and I conversated this one with you and Craig Hoffman that Quan Martin is not the answer. He was one of the guys that I said that should go with St. Juice, but we got rid of half the problem. I just don't think Quan Martin is very good because of the angles that he takes on his playmaking. It's just totally off. But if you want to get down to what we need to change, I don't think we need to change anything personnel-wise. I just think we need to gel. It's a young group. We keep changing personnel. Chemistry is what these guys that I believe are missing. And the coaching staff really has to step it up for me because I think they're missing a lot of things. And Dan Quinn should take the play calling. But the reason why I say they're missing a lot of things is over on the offensive side of the ball. Krosky Merritt, he's your next Devon A-Chain, man. You got to let him play ball.
Look, that's an offensive thing, and I'm with you. I think you gotta figure out and coach him up on this pass pro because, at 6 yards per carry, I want that guy out there. And by the way, I'm fine with Rodriguez getting a lot more carries as well. Look, on Quan Martin, and I've already said this, I actually think he is an effective in the box safety when he plays in the box. What's very obvious is he's not good as a free safety. And I don't have, the breakdown of free safety to box, alignments in terms of the percentage of snap counts that he's out there. But I'm going to guess that he's been out there a lot more at free than he's been in the box. Will Harris was more in the box, and I think Reeves is more in the box. I think Quan Martin actually has good instincts in the box. I don't like him as a free safety. I totally agree with you on that. Max, see if you can get I am curious. See if True Media or any of those places have numbers on Quan Martin lining up at free versus strong safety. I think I've seen him play a lot more as a free safety than a strong in the box safety. Thanks for the call, Montel. Everybody stay on hold. We'll get to more of your calls next. You have to come up with one fix defensively. What is it?
All right. Happy October, everybody. It is Wednesday. The Commanders, they have signed Robbie Chosen. That was yesterday. They also worked out River Craycraft and Willie Snead. Craycraft was with the team during the final stretch of training camp, while Willie Snead crossed paths with wide receiver coach Bobby Ingram in Baltimore. The Cleveland Browns, they have announced that Dylan Gabriel will be taking the reins on the starting job going forward. He's taking over for Joe Flacco after they started just 1-3 through the first 4 games. Third-round pick now becomes the Browns' 41st quarterback since the year 1999. And the Caps, they get a preseason win over the Columbus Blue Jackets last night. The goal scorers were Tom Wilson, Boone Jenner, Ilya Protas, Boone Jenner again, my goodness, Andrew Crystal, and Connor McMichael all last night. While Logan Thompson played the full 60, he earns the win in the preseason for the Caps. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us, and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
totally different subject for 30 seconds. Max sent me this thing during the break because somebody had told me this, and I'm like, it can't possibly be true. But last night's Yankees-Red Sox game, in which the game in the bottom of the ninth with the Red Sox leading 3-1, the Yankees reached base 3 straight batters to open up the inning. The bases were loaded with nobody out. And they became the first team in Major League Baseball postseason history to have the bases loaded with nobody out in the bottom of the ninth and not score a run and then lose the game. That just seems so unbelievably crazy. Like, how many times do you see the bases loaded and, there's a ground ball hit to the shortstop, comes home for one to first, double play? Like, one swing, you can get 2 with, with the first at the plate. But that's what it says. First time. It was exciting last night. That's for sure. I actually had a decent day. I like wagering on baseball. I just played all of the unders, and was 3-1. I'm going to be on all of the unders again today. There's people that start betting baseball for the first time. They bet it during the postseason, and they love overs. It's just like Monday Night Football games. People love overs. Sunday night games love overs. Standalone games, betting public always loves the over. It's easier to root for the over. You don't want to root for the clock to run in football with no points. You don't want to root for, a quick no-hit, no-hitters in baseball are good. And I like 2-1 games. I like the Red Sox, too, to end it tonight against the Yankees. All right, back to the subject at hand. You can play head coach here and make one change defensively to fix the defense. One, what's your number one fix defensively? I wrestled with it. I don't feel good about my answer because I think it's really hard to come up with the right solution when you don't really know what the problem is. And as I mentioned, and I'll say this multiple times, already have, I've been told that it's not one thing. It is a lot of things going on. By the way, they do get that there's an issue. Like, they're not riding the roller coaster here of, we're really good defensively after playing the Giants, or, man, we are really good defensively after playing the Raiders. They do understand their issues. I do think, and again, I want to emphasize this, through 4 games, they're a better run-stopping team than they were last year. So they did fix one area, at least, temporarily through 4 games. They also have been, until Sunday, decent at generating and scheming up pass pressure. Armstrong's had a really good year as a pass rush guy, but there are clear issues on the back end in coverage, as we've identified. 301-230-0980. Joe, you get one fix. What is it?
Evan, how you doing?
I'm well, Joe. Go ahead.
All right. So, I'm going to have to say it because I know this has been a problem. I understand he was injured last year as well when we traded for him, but Marshawn Lattimore, I understand the Giants and the Raiders, different story. And, yeah, he did okay week 1 against Malik Neighbors, but Marshawn Lattimore is either making this deja vu nightmare, whether he's committing these pass interference penalties or just getting blown in coverage. And it's like, are we really going to have to do that again? Because I'm glad you brought this up in the last segment that the next couple of weeks we're facing quarterbacks that are top of the QBR rating, I think, for the next 7 games at least, and it's not going to look good. So if Marshawn has another bad day when Justin Herbert's going to light him up, are we going to have this conversation again? And back to the little run defense, yes, we have improved a bit, but are we going to say that if Saquon later in the year we face Eagles 2 out of the last 3 games has another field day against us? So take care, Kevin. There you go.
Thanks, Joe. By the way, this from Will, who I guess has the PFF numbers. Quan Martin has played free safety the significant majority of the time. Like on Sunday, he played free safety 42 snaps, played in the box 12 snaps. And he said the other games he's got 35-19, Giant game 46-17, Packers 39-19. Yeah, he's been much more of a free safety. I don't know if I liked Quan Martin last year. I liked Chin last year at times. The safety issue is a bit of an issue right now. I think Quan Martin as a free safety is not it may be their best thing, and maybe Savage ends up, being something here for them. But I think they've got a problem there as well. By the way, one fix to everything is Jaden Daniels coming back. All right. Jaden Daniels coming back, putting the pressure on the opponent, because offensively, Washington is moving the football, possessing the football, not punting very much, scoring, a lot. That can help too. And the other thing too, I was thinking about this. I do think that if, that essentially the panic button is, let's just scheme up a lot of aggressive pass rush pressure. Let's just go after the quarterback and live with whatever happens after that. If they can't fix and they're uncomfortable with the back end. Let's go to Mark in Largo. What's up, Mark?
What's up, Kevin? To all the people that don't know football and know fantasy football, they're going to say Marshawn Lattimore. But, Kevin, I'm so shocked you haven't said this already. Why not take your best asset, your athletic guy, and use him like you use Micah Parsons? And that's Frankie Louvu. I would take Frankie Louvu.
Well, because he's
right
not
now.
Micah Parsons for starters.
Okay. We know that, Kevin.
Yeah.
We know that. But he's the only one you have on your team that you could use, okay? Use him, blitz him from the side, blitz him from the middle, blitz him from the other side, blitz him from the locker room, blitz him from the stands. It doesn't matter. If you have him getting the pressure on him, do what you have to do. The other thing I would do is put Preston Smith at the end starting on Sunday, because you're going up against a team that has two of their tackles are down. Yeah. This is where you could use Louvu and use his strength to get pressure on the passer. Because I got news for everybody out there that think it's Lattimore. And I don't think Lattimore's having a good year either. But if you have 5 Darrell Greens back there, if receivers have time and quarterbacks have time, they're going to get open. You got to get pressure on the quarterback, Kevin. You know that.
Mark, look, that is definitely, over all of our years of watching football, we understand you get pressure, your secondary is elevated. The difference in today's game is quick game. So many teams essentially try to nullify pass pressure with quick throws. I mean, when you're playing, when you're in quick game and the ball's coming out quickly, you don't. Say again.
That's why I say, in essence to that, you know what the answer is for that?
Yeah, interior pressure.
If you have someone coming up the middle, like, this is what I couldn't understand. Joe Witt was faking the blitz up the middle. If he would have came with the blitz up the middle, he would have got to Penix at least 4 times. You can't do it from the side anymore. That I agree with you. The only way you could stop someone's quick game, you got to get him up the middle.
Okay. Well, you know what?
And
Maybe
Bobby
Aaron
Wagner
Donald's available, and
go
we can
out
go get him.
Passing downs, and they need to bring Jordan McGee in there too.
Okay. Thank you, Mark.
It's not. You got to get pressure on the passer, Kevin.
Yeah, you did. And you know what? In the first 3 games, they got decent.
Bears back there.
In the first 3 games, certainly against the Giants and the Raiders, they were disruptive with pressure. I agree with you, but like I said, and I've said it for the last 2 days, you want to scheme up pressure, which means now, you've got an extra pass rusher. You've maybe got 2 extra pass rushers. And now you are really limited, and you better get there, or there are a bunch of house calls coming.
Well, you know what? You know what's interesting, Kevin? You know what's interesting? If Greg Williams had this team, you know what he would be doing.
I know. I agree. And you know what? I think Quinn, I actually think Quinn, if they get sort of frustrated with the secondary, and the only answer is pressure, I think they could become a hyper-aggressive team on pass downs.
I mean, and that's the thing I don't
see that.
It's interesting. Greg Williams is the only – you can bring Greg Williams off the street. Everyone knows I'm blitzing from the ceiling. I'm blitzing from the stands. I'm blitzing from the parking lot. I'm blitzing from – he gets results. So, I mean – the only way you're going to deal with these blitzing always works, Kevin. You and I both know that.
All right.
You got a great
I got to run.
Love you, buddy.
I love your calls. Thanks. Let's go to Paulie. Paulie, go ahead.
Big guy, L to the W, man. How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, man. In the word of my man, Monty Brewster, man, all of the above. You know what I mean? Like, listen, man.
I know,
when
but I want your number one.
Hey, I know, but I'm just saying ain't no number one. What I'm saying is the number one to me is schematic. Now, and man, I hate to say this, but I'm in agreement with Mark out there in Largo, man. Like, when you naming all of these players, Lattimore is struggling, Wagner is struggling, Quinn is struggling, Louvu, Mikey, Aim is struggling. When you naming all of these players, it's a schematic problem. Because against these good teams, these two good teams that we played two good teams, we played two mediocre teams, you know. And against these teams, good teams, we've been very vanilla. Period. It's like we playing preseason football out there, and these guys are attacking what they perceive as our weakness. You see, Atlanta game plan was the game plan Green Bay had in the passing game, and they worked it to perfection, just as Green Bay did. This is about schematics, knowing who your players are, knowing the strengths of your defense, and making it work for you. Like you said, we don't have nobody special up front. So you have to be more aggressive than you need to be. And in being aggressive than what you need to be is also putting your D-backs on alert. Saying, so now they know that, okay, it's either going to be something quick or they're going something over top. It's too much thinking going on.
Well, you better get there
if
you're going to be aggressive.
I mean, that's the name of the game. You talk about Quan Martin. This wasn't about they chose the guy that had Will Harris. This wasn't about they wanted Will Harris talent over Jeremy Chin. No, they wanted Will Harris money over Jeremy Chin. Because one thing I know about Jeremy
Chin, it was
Chin
half.
It was half. But one thing about those two, they gained a rapport last year. You seen them get
a little
better
bit
week in and week out, and by the end of the year, they had a hell of a safety combination back there.
I thought
Both
so.
of them guys
I mean, a lot of people killed Quan Martin and Jeremy Chin all year long. I thought by the end of the year it was actually more than satisfactory.
They had a rapport to the last half of the season last year, and this is a schematic thing, man. This is a Joe Witt thing, and look, I can admit I've been wrong on two accounts. I try to defend Joe Witt in the offseason, and I defended Lattimore coming. Both of them had struggles. Yes, but to me, this is more of a Joe Witt thing than anything, man. They have to come up with a scheme of who they want to be. I said this last week in and week out. You can't be a tough guy one week and then be passive aggressive the next week. You know, because that game on Sunday, everybody in that secondary looked scared. Nobody looked like they knew what they was doing or what they were supposed to be doing. So, like I said, when you naming multiple players, we're naming multiple players. This is a schematic thing that's going on. So to me, it has to be Joe Witt, man.
So what would you do? Would you have Quinn take over play calling duties?
No. Quinn would never do that. He would never.
I didn't say he would do it. I'm saying, what would you do?
Well, what I do, I'll bring him into my office and say, okay, we need to develop an identity and something that we're gonna live and die by. You know, and let's go ahead instead of doing this. Okay, let's guess on this game.
What if the choice? Let me throw this out to you. What if the choice, something of an identity, was to play a ton of zone, and they played more of it recently, and play bend don't break?
Well, that's what we did last year. And
I know.
Why I gave Joe Witt credit. That's why I gave him credit last year. He did more with less last year, and now he's doing less with more this year. So it's a schematic thing, man. They need to be more aggressive. Number one, against these good teams, and stop being so scared back there. I'd rather die by the gun than die by death by a thousand.
It's always easier for me to literally go after the quarterback and go down swinging. I think it's, by the way, it's a quicker death too, versus the 14 play drives playing bend don't break and trying to stop them in the red zone. All right, I got to go. You've expressed your points very well. Thank you. Let's go to Daryl in Columbia. Daryl, go.
Hey, Kevin, thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I totally agree with Paulie, man. I mean, it's the scheme. And, the only adjustment that I would make is with the player personnel is like Ron Woodson and like Ronnie Lott. Once you lose your ability, to play the corner, they move them at safety. And that's what I would do with Lattimore.
Okay,
I would put him
all
at
due
safety.
respect, Marshawn Lattimore's never been Ronnie Lott or Rod Woodson, even in his Pro Bowl seasons.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
No. What I'm saying, Kevin, is that Lattimore can play better facing the quarterback. He needs to face the quarterback. He's lost his strength as a corner. You know, he doesn't have the speed. He's not confident. He holds on to the receivers. He gets called for penalties. So he needs to be looking at the quarterback as a safety. And I think that, you know, that would also help our safety group and move Quan to strong safety. But again, I agree with Paulie, man. It's all, you know, this guy Witt, he plays very passive. He's very passive, and these guys did look scared out there, like they didn't know what they wanted to do.
Well, they've looked unsure. They've looked unsure of themselves in the two games against the good offensive teams. And I kind of agree with you, Daryl, and I kind of agree with Paulie from this perspective. If we're talking about more than just one player or one or two players, and I do think it's more than one or two players, then that leans more coaching. Because it's not like all of these guys got worse at the same time. You know, there's something else going on here. If we think all of a sudden Lattimore's terrible, all of a sudden Sandra Still's taking a step back, Quan's struggling at safety. Bobby Wagner at his age is going to occasionally. Remember why Bobby Wagner's on the field for every snap. He's an excellent run stopper. He actually can really blitz the quarterback, and he's an extension of being a coach on the field. He just can't cover, but sometimes you're going to have to live with, you know, they're out there in three wide receiver sets, and the back moves into the slot, and you have no choice. So,
hey Kevin, let me add one more thing, and I'm gonna go. I think that they also need to increase the 4-3 package, the base package, and put McGee out there. And if I was Dan Quinn, I would just go to Witt and tell him that I want to be more aggressive in everything that we do, because there was several times that it was 4th and 2 or 3rd and 4, and the defensive backs were playing back 10 yards, and they were doing a quick 5 and out, and they had a first down.
Well, the last 3rd and 7, the motion got him again. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, it was a few times, Kevin, that they didn't go in motion, and the safeties were 10 yards back, and as soon as they got the snap, this guy just threw the ball to the open slot, and they had a first down easy.
Yeah, that was the one to Bijan when nobody covered him out of the slot. Thanks, Daryl. Appreciate the call. And yeah, I mean, therein lies the problem. So if we do know that it's not one person or one thing, it's multiple things, that would indicate, especially if it's multiple players, that would indicate more scheme play calling. I mean, Paulie makes good points every once in a while. Aubrey, go ahead. Thanks for holding.
Hello, Kevin. I'm out here in Las Vegas. I spoke with you a few days ago, but I changed my mind since I got on the call because I was going to talk about Quinn taking over the calling duties and just mention the fact that, you know, those guys are on headsets on Sunday. You don't know what they're saying to each other. He could be more involved and not make a big announcement about it. But I want to give you what I think is the number one, and this is going to be a different take. The number one thing we can do to help the defense, you ready, is to keep them off the field. Last year, you know, think about it. The first few games we were talking about how great it was that we only punted like 4 or 5 times.
Right.
So I think that we need to go back to our roots and keep them off the field. We're getting ready to face 5, 6 great quarterbacks in the next, 7, 8 games. We're not going to make all these fixes this week in 4 days. So I think it goes back, and I know I'm beating a horse here, but I did it on the last call. It goes back to Cliff Kingsbury. If he does not commit to running the football and eating up clock and keeping the defense off the field, then the defense is going to continue to suffer. They're just out there too much, and they're not that good. Let's just face it. We're going to outscore people, and not win defensive struggles, in my opinion. So that's what I think.
Yeah,
I think we should keep them off the field. Yeah.
No, your best defense is your offense when your offense has that capability, and this one does. Last year, they were 7th in the league in time of possession. This year, through 4 games, they're 28th in the league in time of possession, to emphasize your point. And the other part of that is that while, yes, the running game, if successful, can really be a clock eater, I don't care how they possess the ball and how they maintain possession of the ball and how they move it and how they score it. I just want it to happen. And last year, there were a lot of different ways, depending on the opponent, that they did that. So it's not for me an exclusive, let's run the football and possess it. It's do whatever you need to do. And I trust Cliff, even though I thought they should have run it more against Atlanta on Sunday. But with Jaden back, I trust him to do what's necessary to maintain possession of the ball and score. Ultimately, you just want to score. Yeah, it's better if you possess it for a while and score, but the longer a drive continues, the less likely it is to end in touchdown, because there's more opportunity for mistakes, for sort of self-infliction in the drive. But I'm with you. Their best defense last year was their offense. Appreciate the call. Kevin in Arlington, one fix defensively, what would it be?
Hey, Kevin, thanks for taking my call. I just want to make a comment or two, and I'll get to the fix. And you already had my personnel fix that we texted about. I agree. We need to put Mikey back out on the boundary, et cetera. But I think it's ironic that we're looking at the 6th consecutive year where we have defensive-minded men building this team, both in the coaching and in the front office. And here we are. We still suck defensively. Yeah, last year we're 30th-ish in defending the run. Small sample size, I get it so far this year. But now we're 30th-ish defending the pass. And it's just incredible. If you look at our draft capital, you look at our money, et cetera, it's all gone to that side of the ball. For what? All right. I just had to get that out of the way. It's very frustrating because here we are. We're not any better defensively. Having said that, I think Paulie's point is spot on. When everything's part of the problem, when it's multiple, and by the way, when you love a pie chart to show, okay, how much of it is wit/coaching versus players, but whatever. But when you're having this,
no, the point is, if you're pointing to a bunch of players that aren't playing well and have played well at various points in their career, that is a strong lean to it must be scheme. Yeah.
It is. So here's the thing though, and it's a Quinn Witt thing with the susceptibility to getting smoked by Shanahan offenses. Yeah. Where is the self-scout regarding what do we have to do differently to be at least competitive?
You don't think there's been a self-scout on that?
And so just to finish, and then, please jump in. I don't think this needs to be publicized, but, Mike Shanahan, hey, Mike, come be a consultant and tell us how will you beat us. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, well, I talk to Mike every once in a while. He's not doing any of that stuff anymore. He is consulting one team and one team only, and that's his son's team.
It.
Yeah,
I get it. No, I just said that because I know how you feel about Mike, and I like Mike too.
Yeah.
But seriously, they need to hire someone who understands and can coach Quinn and wit up on what do you have to do differently, because they don't get it.
Maybe. Who'd be great at that would be Cooley. He understands that offense better than anybody. Thanks, Kev. Appreciate it. All of you that I missed, apologize. I have a guest now. John Orion's going to come on with us. We'll try to get back to this at the end of the show. We can, because there are a lot of good ideas, and I know a lot of you on hold had some. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. John Orand is our favorite when it comes to TV media and things like television ratings, which he and I care about. I know not everybody cares about that stuff. But there is a developing situation, if you're not following this, with the Caps, basically a week away from the start of their season, the Wizards a little bit further off, with how we're going to consume those games. For those of you that are interested, I understand not everybody's interested in the Wizards right now. John and I are. We're diehards, always have been. So update everybody on this, Monumental Sports being dropped by YouTube and by others, and how people in the DMV are going to be able to watch Wizards Caps games this year.
Can I ask you a quick question first, Kevin?
Yes.
Because you host a local radio sports talk show. How many calls are you getting on this?
Look, if I were going to get calls on this, I wouldn't need you on the show. I'm kidding, of course. But yeah, I'm interested in this. And this is one of those things. This is real inside baseball, right? When in doubt during football season, you talk football, period, in this kind of format, period. If you stray away from the Skins, the Commanders, or the NFL, you're at great risk. Unless there's something that you're really passionate about, or it's important information for everybody to know, or the guest is always really good, and you're always really good. So I'm not losing here, but if you want to know the truth, the number of calls would be minimal.
Well, here's the good news. I love this topic, so I can't wait to talk about it. And so the problem is that Ted and Zach Leonsis ran into a buzzsaw of the entire media industry. And across the country, you have cable operators, including Comcast, and you've had satellite distributors, including DirecTV, that have been taking the regional sports networks, which is what Monumental Sports is, and putting it on another tier, like a more expensive tier, because they're tired of the proverbial grandmother down the street helping to subsidize our addiction to local NBA and NHL games. Well, what's happening right now is that as of today, Monumental Sports Network is dark on Hulu Plus Live TV, which is a streaming service through Disney, and they went dark on YouTube TV, which is becoming I think it's now the third largest distributor. If you take a look at the number of regional sports networks that Hulu Plus Live TV and YouTube TV carry, it's only the NBC sports regional networks, and it's going to drop those networks too when those contracts come up, and it just happens to be Monumental Sports Network's time. And so, there are no other RSNs there. There's the FanDuel Sports Networks, former Fox Sports Networks. They're not on it. Yes Network isn't on it. This is the way the industry is going, and it's sort of like what's happening to Monumental Sports Network. So one of the reasons is that I know that some of the messaging coming out of Monumental is we're dropping the price. The price is still very high compared to all the other programming that people get. And
you're talking about to watch these games via monumentalsports.com.
No, I'm talking about with the price that YouTube TV pays.
Oh,
for,
the YouTube
for this programming.
It. Well, hold on, just big picture. If the Caps fans want to watch the Caps starting a week from tomorrow night in the regular season, if they have cable, they'll have Monumental and they'll be able to watch the games, correct?
Correct.
If they have YouTube TV, which I have now, they won't be able to. If they have Hulu Plus, they won't be able to watch those games unless they watch it through Monumental Sports and pay a subscription fee.
Exactly. And so if you're a distributor, everything that I'm going to espouse is sort of anti-consumer, because the consumers just want to watch the games, right?
Yeah.
But if you're YouTube TV, you're saying why am I going to pay for that programming when you're selling it on your own? There's no exclusivity to us here in order to have it. And even if you go to Comcast, you're going to be spending like a ton of money because you have to get an added tier in order to see it.
Right.
And so there are business reasons why these companies aren't just being mean. And also, if you look at YouTube TV, they're right now in the middle of a knockdown, drag-out fight with NBC Universal. They're also getting ready for a knockdown, drag-out fight with Disney and all of their channels. And they just got through a knockdown fight with Fox. So Monumental Sports Network and the Capitals and Wizards, that doesn't hit their radar screen. Like that's just when Zach Leonsis came out and said, like, they're not even talking to us. There's a reason for that. They're focused on these other like multi-billion-dollar deals with these bigger with these bigger program networks.
Okay, so this is interesting. So they're just too small of they're a fly on on YouTube TVs and NBC. They're dealing with the big boys. They're dealing with all the NBC issues.
Well, not only are they just a fly, not only are they small, but the entire strategy of these companies has been moving away from carrying local regional sports networks. And
right.
so when it came up.
So what do they do? What do the Leonsises do here?
I think what they have to do is they have to really plug two things. They have to start really pitching their direct to consumer service, because you can watch every single game. It's going to cost you, but you can go to Monumental Sports Network and watch every single game, and they have to plug that. And they also have to try to get people to go over to Comcast or DirecTV or any other service that has their games. And third, speaking as a Wizards fan, Kevin, they have to put a product on the floor that I'm going to want to pay for to watch. The Wizards won 18 games last year and 15 games the year before. And the last time they were over 500 was in 2018. So when they're trying to whip Wizards fans into a revolt, like they're taking away your games, like they haven't been relevant in a decade since John Wall was in town. So they have to get a winning product. They have to promote their own direct-to-consumer service, and they have to send people over to Comcast, DirecTV, and other distributors that carry Monumental Sports Network.
I mean, the problem with the Comcast thing is so many people have switched to YouTube TV for a number of reasons and have moved away from cable, just like everybody's moving away from these RSNs. So the direct-to-consumer thing would make sense, but I just don't know. This is my gut. I'm paying whatever it takes to watch every NFL game, okay? And I will do that every year. But I'm not paying, as you just described, a premium to watch, even though I love the Wizards and they are close to my heart. I'm not paying, another fee to watch that product. And by the way, it would have to be a great product. So I'm curious, how has their direct-to-consumer business gone?
I haven't seen the numbers, but and the problem that Ted and Zach have right now is that the Capitals, the NHL fan base, is rabid, and it's and they're going to follow the team wherever it is, but it's relatively small. It's a hockey fan base, and
right.
And the NBA fan base, I actually looked this up before coming on. The team with the NBA team with the worst record since 2000. It's your Washington Wizards. There's not Jim Dolan's Knicks, not Michael Jordan's Hornets. It's the Wizards, and so it's hard to whip up that fan base to go and watch it. And then if you listen to some of the preseason chatter about the upcoming season, it's like, oh well, we hope we're competitive in the second half of the season, and that's not going to get people to subscribe to the direct consumer service, and it's not going to whip up a frenzy of people that are going to be ditching their YouTube TV subscriptions in order to get this regional sports network.
What about an over-the-air option?
That is an option, and that's an option that other people are doing in that some people are doing in other markets. The problem is that they have existing deals with DirecTV, with Comcast, so they can't take games out of those packages and put them over the air. I guess they could, but it's something that they can't do on a dime. That's going to take a little bit of a negotiation, and it does happen in certain markets.
Over the air, by the way, for those wondering, that would be like putting the games on Channel 9 or Channel 7 or Channel 5 or Channel 4.
Channel 20 back in the day.
Channel 20 back in the day. Yes. Channel 20 back in the day. Of course, back in the day, those were just road games, remember? Yeah, we didn't get the home games on Channel 20.
Road games, and I think they were only on like Friday nights too, or Saturday nights. It was only like a
I don't know.
weekend.
I can remember watching weeknight games on Channel 20. I think most of the road games when we were younger were over the air on Channel 20, but they couldn't do home games because of the protection of, unless, the sellouts were in advance. They didn't even have a sellout rule, I don't think, in the NBA. You could correct me if I'm wrong.
My parents were too strict. I had to go to bed.
It was home team sports, though, that eventually carried all of the home games and then eventually all of the games. Yeah, this is, I guess on some level, wouldn't Ted think this is going to drive more people to my direct-to-consumer offering? Which, by the way, what is the cost of that? I have no idea what the cost of that is.
I should have looked that up. It's I don't know what the cost of it is. I think
is it hundreds of dollars a year, or is it $50 a year?
No, I would expect it. I would expect it to be about $20 a month, or maybe $30 a month, or something sort of in that area.
So like $240, over $200 a year.
To jump in real quick, fellas, they dropped the annual price to $179.99. The monthly price is still, I think, $20 a month.
Okay, so instead of $240, you can pay for it for the year for what did you say? $179?
$179.99, $180.
All right, so you get a $60 discount if you pay it for the year. Honestly, I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody that would pay for that for the Wizards. I don't.
I have friends who remain Oriole fans, and they got the Masson direct-to-consumer service for the Oriole games. And they ditched it by June because the Orioles were out of it, and they had no luck. So the beauty of this for fans is if you're a Caps fan and they start slowly and you can ditch it. You're not stuck to it for the entire season, and you can end up saving some money potentially on it. I suppose.
Look, it's better than paying for Comcast and YouTube TV, obviously, at $20 a month.
No doubt, but I would think that. If you're a big Wizards fan, or if you're a big Caps fan, and you want access to the RSN, you're going to ditch YouTube TV. You're going to ditch Hulu, and you're going to go back to Comcast, or you're going to get a satellite dish and get it through DirecTV.
But again, to your point, the products being offered just aren't needle movers for most.
Yeah, they could be in a couple of years, but they just aren't today. I mean, the timing is how long have the Wizards been in their rebuilding mode now? 5 years?
A long time, since 1979, basically. All right, we're talking to John Orand. John, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Oh, no. I'm good.
At Orand _puck on X. John, of course, is a sports correspondent for Puck News, and he's got a really good podcast called The Varsity with John Orand. You can get that anywhere you get a podcast. In looking ahead to a potential, baseball lockout, this is off of the conversation of just Ted in general. He's had interest, obviously, in purchasing the Nats. These RSNs are dying all over the place. And now Major League Baseball is taking back for a lot of teams, sort of the TV rights, and they're going to sell them themselves. Is that essentially, along with, a salary cap, yes or no? A salary cap makes it more attractive to own a baseball team than no salary cap. But the TV aspect of that, John, does that make it less attractive for Ted?
In a certain sense, it could, because he just bought this RSN in 2022. He only bought it 3 years ago.
That's all it's been? Is 20? Is wow. Okay.
Because it used to be owned by NBC Sports Network and run by NBC. So it was just about 3 years ago that he bought this. So this is a big payout for investment for him, and he wants to build it out. And the best way to build it out, obviously, is through local sports rights. However, one of the things that baseball is taking a look at, and a deal that has not been announced yet, but everybody knows it's coming, is ESPN is going to be the exclusive provider of MLB.TV. That's the out-of-market streaming package. And so if you get the ESPN's direct-to-consumer service, you're going to have access to out-of-market baseball games. It's also because baseball controls the rights to several teams that just got the Mariners rights, the Padres rights, Diamondbacks, Rockies. I forget what there's a one more out there as well. I forget which one that is. They have the local rights to that, and that package. If baseball is able to amass all these local rights, and there's a good chance they will be, because what's happening here in DC, again, it's happening across the country. It's not unique to Ted and Zach or DC. If they're able to get that, and your ESPN or your Amazon or your YouTube, Royals games in Kansas City, they're the most, they bring on the most viewers of anything on TV, whether the Royals are good or not.
Wow.
Same thing with Orioles games in Baltimore, same thing with Twins games in Minnesota. And so if you start to amass those local rights and put them on a streaming service like the ESPN streaming service, or again, like Amazon or YouTube, that's a package that these companies are going to pay billions of dollars for. So what local teams are going to give up in terms of the local revenue, they're going to make up in spades if it's sold nationally like that. And so that's one way to look at it. The problem is you have teams like the Dodgers or the Yankees or the Cubs, the bigger teams in the bigger markets that don't want to take part. But you can see where baseball is moving in terms of this. It's just going to start with the smaller markets and then start to build from that.
I'm talking to John Orand. All right, let's talk some football. I mean, we've seen this has been a pretty good start. Monday night, by the way, was a disaster, those two games. But until Monday night, where are the overall NFL numbers and even college football numbers? It seems like every press release I read, it's like it's another record.
Okay, we love to talk about ratings. I've tried to stop writing about ratings this season because Nielsen is changing the way that it counts ratings, and it benefits the NFL and it benefits college football. Everything is up right now, and it's not necessarily because. Well, so for example, they count out of home viewers, and so that means like if you're watching it at a bar or a hospital or a restaurant or anything like that at a friend's house. I mean, they used to say, okay, out of home viewers are going to be a certain number of people. I don't know the specifics, like 2.5, and they increased that to like 4, and so that just sort of like that adds to that. They're increasing the markets where they add in the out of home too, so that's adding numbers into it too. So
okay. By the way, is that a better reflection of the audience size, but just bad for comparison purposes?
Exactly. So I do believe that it better reflects how many people are watching it. But when you say this, when, for example, you have a blowout Super Bowl and it's like, hey, golly gee, this got the most viewers ever in Super Bowl history. You start to scratch your head and say like, wait, what's different and how is that even possible? So everything is up. If you look at the total numbers, the NFL is still not just the king of sports, but the king of entertainment programming in the United States. And one of the stories that I've been ODing on, Kevin, is the NFL has an out in its media contracts in 2029, and so that's still 5 years away. But Roger Goodell and the networks, both sides, are saying that they'd be willing to open it up even next year in order to just get some sort of certainty. These TV networks want to make sure that they keep this going until 2034 or beyond, and so that's something that I've been ODing on, and it just shows that the TV networks, the streamers, and the NFL they all are beyond thrilled with the numbers that are coming out of the NFL.
So, I mean, are we going to end up, even if it gets done, if something gets amended before 2029, are we going to just all as consumers end up paying even more to watch every game? Who doesn't have the NFL at this point? Apple TV, Hulu. I mean, who else is going to get involved? Everybody's going to try to get involved no matter what the price is.
So right now, like YouTube is involved with the NFL, but they only had one game. Netflix is involved with the NFL, but it only has those Christmas Day games. So what if the NFL decides, like, okay, we're going to reopen these deals. We're going to take a couple of Sunday afternoon games, maybe from the 1 o'clock packages, and we'll put them and create a new package that maybe Netflix will spend $1 billion on, or maybe YouTube will spend $1 billion on. So that doesn't mean consumers are going to pay more. Potentially, but it also means that the consumers are going to be able to see more, because they're going to take a game that's going to like 5% of the audience on Sunday afternoon, and it'll give it a national window or an international window, for goodness sakes, on Netflix or YouTube. So there are different trade-offs to it.
I texted you about this, and you don't know what the numbers are, but I'm curious if you know what
I did double check. So I don't have for Commanders local ratings. I don't have week 4 yet. Through week 3, they're kind of mediocre. They're averaging about 13 locally, which is that's a rating, and that's below the league average.
Yeah,
but there's the schedule has been really mediocre for the Commanders. One Thursday night game. The Giants haven't been a draw for a while. Las Vegas and Atlanta. I would give this some time to see what happens on that. Right now, it's not very good, but the schedule hasn't been a very TV friendly schedule for the team.
I hear you, but this was the most anticipated season with the highest expectations in a long, long time, with a superstar quarterback. I'm shocked by that. They've sold out their first 2 home games. It took them a long time to sell those games out. They have not sold out every other game this year. We've talked about the reasons why, and I think we even disagree somewhat on the reasons why, but a 13 locally. So where does that rank?
I don't have the actual rankings. So
but it's bottom half of the league, right?
Yeah. The source said it's below the league average. So it's the bottom half of the league. And the source that I had just mentioned the schedule so far. It hasn't. When they play the Cowboys, when they play the Eagles, when they get some of these bigger games on the schedule, it's they.
But remember, they were low last year, even with a 7-2 record, and one of the hottest teams in the NFL with the Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, but what people have told me, we'll see what happens. It's a bad start, no doubt, or not a bad start. It's a mediocre start. Let's wait and see, because it's the year after the breakout year that you start to see it reflected in the viewership, and so we'll see if this is it certainly isn't a green flag. It's not quite a red flag. What's the middle? A beige flag, pink flag, something to keep your eye on, but it's not great right now.
I have a complaint watching college football, and I'm wondering if this is a thing or not. So when you watch games on Peacock, it's a pain in the to get from Peacock out of Peacock back to YouTube TV, to watch all of these games. I have found myself almost avoiding the Peacock game unless it's really close late because of that. Is that a complaint, or am I just old and I haven't figured out the easy way to go from that kind of streaming to YouTube?
A little bit of both. It's because whenever I complain about it, younger people just get frustrated with me. I sound like a boomer to them.
Yeah, but my sons have agreed with me on this.
I'm telling you that what you just identified is we didn't talk a lot about YouTube TV's negotiations with NBC Universal. That it all centers around this, because NBC Universal wants you to come to watch it in Peacock, and then if you have to get out of Peacock, then you do that in order to watch something else. YouTube TV is saying, we want to make it a better user experience, so we want to have Peacock within YouTube TV so that you can easily go from one to the other. NBC doesn't want to give up that control. It's saying, like, we're not going to let you know what our viewership is, and being able to sell it to advertising, and there's a lot of control issues there. And YouTube is saying it's better for the fans, and it's hard to see a middle ground here. One is going to have to give as opposed to the other, and that's where the big problem is. And it's because of what you said. People are. I mean, you mentioned Peacock. Thursday Night Football. I sit through the commercials for Thursday Night Football. I never sit through the commercials anymore. It's hard. It's hard to get out. You identified a really big problem in the business that these multi-billion, trillion-dollar companies are right now arguing over.
Tell me about Ryder Cup ratings, and I think it's a tremendous event. I think it's an event for non-sports fans, for casual sports fans, but it's up against football. So how does it do? And do you think they'll ever consider changing the date?
I haven't heard that they consider changing the date. I think that the numbers, I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head, but I saw them as being like 3-4 million for the Sunday, which for golf, any kind of golf is pretty good, especially considering that the match seemed to be pretty much over on Saturday. So it was probably hard for tune-in on that. The NBC loves having it. They have a long-term deal with the PGA Tour, and NBC doesn't have a Sunday afternoon football, and this having something that they can slot in September every couple of years that bring 4 or 5 million people, plus the number of people that are now subscribing to Peacock because of it. I don't see the date changing, and it's something that one of the biggest media companies in the country is doubling down on. So it's going to be 2 years from now, it'll be pretty much similar. 4 years from now, pretty much similar as well.
All right, last one, and I've gone way over with you per usual.
I know,
but you and I have talked about
fun on this.
I know
exactly.
We've talked about Troy Aikman over the years. You know how NFC East fans don't like him. I've never had that issue with Troy. I've actually always thought he was good, but there has been a development with Troy Aikman as a broadcaster in the last 2 seasons. It's become a huge trend on social media. He can't stop laughing during the broadcast. Have you noticed this? And what are they doing about it? This has become annoying to a lot. I mean, it is every single game. You'll see it trending on social media. Can Troy stop laughing at everything, including his own attempts at humor?
Is he laughing at Joe Buck or the play on the field?
He's laughing at everything. He just can't stop laughing. He's giggling and laughing throughout the entire broadcast. Look, the game he had the other night, I can't blame him. But I mean, so do you know about this thing?
I hate to say that I don't. My Monday Night Football is stuck on the Manning cast. I love watching the Manning cast. It's after a whole weekend of football, like it's just kind of a good way to ease out of the weekend to me. So I don't watch the Joe Buck and Troy Aikman nearly as much as I should. Next time I come on, I'm going to have a ready answer for you, though. I promise.
All right. I got to roll. I always enjoy this. Thanks. Appreciate it as always.
Hey, thanks a ton, man. Take care.
All right. John Orand, everybody. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the Team980.com. I had Fred Smoot on the podcast the other day, and I wanted you to hear his answers to what we were talking about earlier, and that is, what are the issues defensively and what are the fixes? We started off with, what are the issues?
The issues to me, and here go another unsung hero, people don't, Will Harris. Let me tell you what this guy brought to this team. He became the vocal lizer of the back end. He had the ability to play tight ends in a way that no other safety on his roster. I've watched him in Zach Ertz's battle all season.
He didn't play Tucker Kraft very well.
Wait, listen to me. I'm never judging nobody by one guy. I know what this guy brought to this team. And now that he is missing in his defensive backfield, now that they continue to try to play all the man-to-man, if you can't play man-to-man, if you ain't got people changing it to boxes and triangles and doing checks when they motion and understanding how to get the most play out of the less, putting people in the less spots that's going to get them. Like, the one thing about it is, as much as people on Lattimore, sometimes it's what you call and how you execute it. Some of these things where he's running all the way across these formations, me and Sean Spring would have been checked there before that play even came. Like, so it's how do you talk and how do you weaponize communication and what are those communication checks? What can we check to? What are our options? So that's all I'm saying is, before people go and say what a person can and cannot do, you need to know what he got at his full repertoire and what's the communication. So if I can say anything that I'm seeing with my eye, they need to be on the same page, and they're not. It's almost like everybody, because we in man-to-man, everybody out there playing survival mode, and that ain't how it got to be played.
Okay, so you, I think, are implying an answer to my next question, which is, for people like me, I think it's really hard to figure out. Obviously, you don't want Bobby Wagner, covering Bijan Robinson or Kyle Pitts. Him in coverage doesn't seem.
You don't want Bobby Wagner from 10 years ago checking the Bijan Robinson.
Exactly. So there are certain things that are obvious, but when it comes to why people have gotten so wide open against the two opponents that are capable offensively, because the Giants and Raiders were not that capable offensively on the days we played them anyway. On the days we played them.
So you give them credit. So you discredit them when they don't stop offense, but when they do stop offense, it's because
I'm just
32 because it don't compare to the other ones. Because guess what? That Green Bay offense is one of the top offenses in football. That Falcons offense got 3 layers of stars. If the quarterback continues to grow, they're going to have a star-studded cast. And now the defense struggled against 2 good offenses.
You are really in 2-2. You're in 2-2 mode right now. You're in 500 mode. You needed them to win yesterday. You needed them to be 3-1. So did I. I prefer that. No, what I was saying is that, they played the Giants, who were a bit of a mess on opening day. No Andrew Thomas. That offensive line was a mess. They played the Raiders. Their best guard didn't play. They were on a short week, Monday Night Football, west to east coast, 1:00 start. And a lot of people got very excited about the defensive performances. And I think okay, well, in my view, I think it was, there was cautiousness in the approach to they're much better. Why? Because when they played a good offense, they got torched against Green Bay. And when they played a better than average offense yesterday, they got torched again. So I think it is still very much a wait and see here. But after yesterday, there are concerns. But back to what I was going to say about coverage, I think it's really hard for us that didn't play, didn't coach, to understand, is it more players and execution, or is it more scheme and play calling? And it sounded to me
they both are always going to be married in a way that can't be separated. It's the play call, the players, the DNA of all of those things is only, like, think about a coordinator. If you ain't got the players you need to call a certain style of defense, you're going to stay away from that defense no matter how much you love that defense because I don't have the soldiers for it. So they are so married to each other. Sometimes we'll never know unless we in that locker room truly which one is the weakness. Now, the only thing they can tell us sometimes is if it start to be patterns. All right? Like if the certain person just continue to get beat and it becomes a pattern, then it's more of a that person thing than it is a technique thing, what's going on with the play call.
All right, you know what? Enough about why. Let's. I'm going to be Tyrion Lannister right now. I'm going to be the hand, and we got to come up with solutions here. So what's the solution?
Well,
you're Tyrion Lannister, not me.
No. I'm more Littlefinger. I'm about chaos is a ladder.
Yeah, but that's
chaos is a ladder to greatness. See, you got to realize Littlefinger started the Game of Thrones. He started all the drama.
I know, but you can't trust Littlefinger, and I want to be able to trust you.
And guess what? In this world, you can't trust nobody. So understand that. I always understand that.
All right. What's the solution?
The fix is, one, I think they need to simplify to play faster. Two, understand you don't have the depth you started the season off with. You're going to have to make sure that some guys are being rotated in, not because you want to, because they have to, because they could be a starter within a drop of a dime. Three, like I said, after simplifying, after making sure you maximizing some people, I want to see guys like Tyler Owens on the field. I want to see other guys that we haven't been utilizing. I want to see these guys utilized. And on that defensive front, I know they've been rotating. I think you need to find which duos, which pairs, which guys work better together. Because I don't think that's happened yet. I don't think they found, all right, these work together, these work together. Like, I don't think they found that quick shuffle over there. So I think simplify, put these guys in less, how should I say, high-risk situations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there needs to be a compromise in there and making sure that everybody's on the same page so everybody can play fast, everybody can play physical. And people need to, when anything get bad, they need to understand truly they just have to lean on that technique, man. Technique is everything.
On the D-line thing that you just talked about, what do you think the best combo of players is? Are you talking about just the front four, their base four, like which four should be out there the most?
Well, first of all, I like anything with Kinlaw in it. Like if people really want to appreciate some good trench warfare, go get your all 22 and watch old Kinlaw.
Yeah.
He throwing people out the club. And Payne is getting that edge back, and see, he's not getting double teamed as much because Kinlaw is in there.
Yeah, exactly.
So any combination of them, and Dorrance Armstrong is the unappreciated man. That's Rodney Dangerfield right there. He gets no respect. He just ended a streak of a sack per game starting back to last year.
Yeah.
So he has been getting after the pass rusher. So any mix of those three plus whoever else needs to be in that pass rushing core. Like they need to find the true mixture of what's needed.
All right. Well, it changes, and there's still plenty of time. There are 13 games left in the season. They're going to play them anyway, even though some people expected more and are disappointed. I think considering your best player didn't play in 2 games, 2-2 is fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, 2-2 is fine. How do you see Sunday's matchup against the Chargers?
Well, like I told you, anytime we got a game that number 5 is dressed up, that Jedi, we always got a chance. Now, the one thing that I think we're going to see a little bit of a different Charger team because Joe Ott, one of the best offensive linemen in football, you don't lose a player like that and get better, especially after them already losing Rashawn Slater. So it's going to be some trench warfare that's going to decide that game. The big uglies will decide this game right here. And it's going to be one of the things. They got Amari and Hampton. They got and Herbert is. I have never seen him look this good, but I'm not shocked because that's what Harbaugh does. He's a quarterback whisperer. He understands this will be a challenge going to play them over there. But like I said, anytime we got number 5, we got a chance.
I agree with that. A couple of quick league questions. How much trouble are the Ravens in?
You know what? If anybody can find their way out, it's that team because they too damn talented. But also, look at their first 4 scheduled games. Like they've been had this number one, this top schedule for so long, and we've been used to them skating through it that sometimes you don't stop to see how hard this schedule is. This schedule will only get better. I mean, softer as it goes with 2 games against Cincinnati and Jake Brown. Hell, they might have Russell Wilson by that time. So the schedule will get. I think they will put it like this. I'm never counting out any team with Lamar Jackson quarterback and Derrick Henry at the running back. I don't care how the defense looks. Now, you want to talk about how a team feel about their defense. Would you want to go to sleep and wake up a Baltimore Ravens fan and talk about defense when it's been their identity for a billion years and all of a sudden now they can't stop a nosebleed? No, that's different.
Well, the expectations for great defense in Baltimore have been earned. That's for sure.
This team didn't earn it. They can't be living off Ed Reed and Ray Lewis.
I'm saying the fan expectation. Yes. No, you're right. But I tend to agree with you. I think they'll figure it out. And they're in a division that's certainly still gettable. In the NFC right now, again, it's only 4 games, and the Packers look great. And then last night they gave up 40. But do you have a team in the NFC that you feel really good about that this team is going to be there in late January with a chance?
And you're saying from the NFC, period?
NFC.
The Detroit Lions will be there.
That's mine. That's mine.
The playoffs. Yeah. They will be there. I would also say the LA Rams will be there, hovering. And I hate to say this, the bleacher creatures of Philadelphia will be there. That team right there, to me, is the most complete roster in football. When you go roster plus coaching and synergy, they win ugly, but they can win any way they want to. Saquon is off to a slow start. Nobody is saying nothing about it. A.J. Brown is off to a slow start. Everybody's talking about it. And they just continue to win. They just continue to win. But Washington, we have something to say about it, too.
Yeah, because I still believe that 5, you could argue, is the best quarterback in the conference. And if you have the best quarterback in the conference, you get a shot. But that's interesting because those are the 3 teams for me right now. Like if you said of the final 4, the 4 that participate in the divisional round of the NFC playoffs, the Rams, as long as Stafford's healthy, the Lions and the Eagles are the only 3 that I feel really good about. Green Bay, I think I would have said them 2 weeks ago and it would have been too early. I think they're really good and they're really talented, but I like Jordan Love. I like him a lot, but there are still some things that occasionally he does that'll cost you. But I think
he has to prove. He has to prove it. Yeah. He hasn't proved it in the playoffs. See, here go the thing about it. Old ball coach told y'all, did agree, y'all can't be crowning them. Right? Y'all want to crown them. Y'all want to crown these guys after 2 games and make them the best team in the NFL, and they just went head-to-head with the Cowboys, who people said 2 weeks ago were the worst team in football.
Right. All right. You're the best. Thanks for doing this. Hope you're well. Everybody can watch Fred. He's a part of all the stuff on the Commanders, website, YouTube channel with Logan and with Santana and everybody else. Appreciate you doing this.
Anytime, Professor.
Fred Smoot, everybody. Brought to you by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game live every Sunday, all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. We're going to carry Dan Quinn's press conference at 12:30. Assuming some updates on some of the injured players. Those of you that have been on hold to talk defense with what your number one fix would be, we'll get to you next. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. So the defense, just so you know, traditional numbers, 14th in the league, run defense-wise. Pressure rate, 3rd in the league. But coverage, pass defense, 27th in passing yards allowed. That is way down from a year ago. But, of course, a year ago they were getting run on, which leads to that. You know, per DVOA, Washington regressed last week back to the middle of the pack defensively. But they continue to be a strong run defensive team, ranked 7th in the league per DVOA. Coming up at 12:30, we're going to carry Dan Quinn's press conference live. You're also in a few minutes going to hear what new president of baseball ops, Paul Tabini, said in his introductory press conference this morning at Nats Park. But you got one fix to the defense. My man G from the shop's been holding for a while, and he's not happy with me, so I'm going to start with him. Go ahead.
Nah, it ain't. I ain't unhappy with you, Sheehan. If I was unhappy, I'd have been hung up. I really enjoy your show, so that's why I stayed on hold for this topic, man. And first and foremost, man, rest in peace to one of my first basketball heroes, Lawrence Moten.
Yeah,
man.
Lawrence Moten. I meant to mention that. I've got that on my notes today for the show. Yeah. Did you know, by the way, I didn't know this. Did you know he's the all-time leading scorer in Syracuse basketball history?
Oh, I remember when he took the Big East scoring record. He just was passed. He held the scoring record in the Big East. Just was broke a couple years ago by Marcus Howard at Marquette. It shows how long he had it, too. He held that record for a long time. When you can get a bucket, you're going to get a bucket. And that's what Lawrence Moten was, a bucket getter, man. And he was one of my first heroes, man. Him, Walt Williams, Victor Page is who I wanted to be like growing up playing basketball. So condolences to the family and the whole basketball community, man.
I know, for sure. Archbishop Carroll in the house.
Yeah,
Lawrence Moten,
look, man,
sorry to his family, sympathies. Just 53 years old.
Yeah, man. God bless. On the topic, man, I'm being sarcastic when I say this. You know, I think the whole defense needs a soft benching, Kevin. A soft benching.
Yeah, right. Well, you can't put the whole defense on soft benching, but yes.
If you ask about, yes, you can. But soft benching, man, I feel like I get dumber every time I hear that phrase. I was just making a joke. But my real thing is film room needs to be pertinent. Everybody that's getting cooked needs to be early, sit in front of the class. They need to stay late. You know what I'm saying? Because against the Packers in Atlanta, our defense looked unprepared, unsure, and indecisive. You know, we looked timid. Y'all stole that word from me before I could even get through. So that needs to be corrected in the film room. I think it will get better, Sheehan. The more film we get on, because teams change from year to year. A lot stays the same, but some things change. So the more film we got, I think it will get better, especially being able to watch the Giants, a Division foe, lead the whole game against the 3-0 Chargers and figure out how to beat them. So it'll show a lot. We got a good film on the Chargers, on how to exploit them, and let's do that. You know, I think we will be more prepared the longer the season goes on, but if we're looking like this after week 8, man, we've got real problems, you know?
So basically, you wouldn't do anything drastic right now.
I'm not calling for anybody's benching. I'm not calling for anybody to be cut. I'm not putting the blame on one single person. I'm just putting it on. I'm looking at it in a coaching mindset. I'm watching the game. I'm watching our defense against Green Bay and Atlanta look scared and indecisive against their playmakers. They sitting down and making catches unabated. So to me, it looks like we confused and we have no game plan. And I think the game plan needs to be better. Like Paulie said, the dudes that's on the field, see how they're successful and use them to be successful. Don't just
I think Paulie's he doesn't always have great points. Actually, he does. I actually really appreciate the way he thinks about sports. But I think he probably had the best overall summary, which is if it's true that it's, not just one player, but it's several players and it's execution and it's miscommunication, that really does then fall back on coaching. And when it's one player, it's one thing. When it's multiple players, it tends to be more, scheme related. I do agree with that.
There
all
you
right,
go.
man.
No, and that's all it comes down to. That's my solution.
All right.
Have much more pride in the film room, and let's figure out a good way to exploit this next team in the Chargers, who are Division 4 that was 0-3, looking terrible. Figured out how to lead the whole game and pull out
I'm
the dub.
I'm going to tell you about that game because I've now watched the condensed version of that game. Number one, we don't have anywhere near what the Giants have from a defensive personnel standpoint. They have A players on their defense, 4 of them right now, in Lawrence, in Burns, in Carter, and in Thibodeau as a pass rusher. All right, they got a real defensive personnel group. Offensively, the Chargers killed themselves with penalties, man. They had 14 penalties. They had 2 picks. Some of that was defensive oriented, but they actually moved the football at times. The Giants just made big plays and they hurt themselves. I like us Sunday. I think we're going to win Sunday, but it ain't going to be defensive led. It'll be offensive led.
Hey, Sheehan, you named 4 players from the Giants who do have some stalwarts on defense, but we got the same amount that you just named in Kinlaw, Payne. I haven't lost confidence in Lattimore and Luvu. That's the same amount of people that you just named for the Giants, and
they're not as good as what the Giants have. The Giants stars are better than our stars.
Coming off of L though, coming off of L for them.
Yeah,
their whole stadium.
I agree. I got to roll. I thank you for holding. Real quickly, because Jay, you've been on hold for a while. Finish it up for us. I can't get to everybody. We got to get to Quinn. Go ahead, Jay.
What's up, Kevin? So,
hey, Jay, what's up?
First thing, and I know you got to go. I would not take the play calling duties from Whit, but I want him on the field. I want the defense to feel his pulse. Okay, I want him to feel the pulse of the defense rather than in the booth. That's the biggest thing. Second thing is, I agree with Smoot. Simplify and correct the communication. That happens when you come down out of that booth.
Yeah.
Third thing, just sprinkle in the young linebackers, Cahill, Kane, because Wagner does diagnose plays at a Hall of Fame level. I agree with Whit there, but coaching we got to keep them accountable. You got to get these young guys ready, and I would not move Lattimore. Don't move him just yet because the best is yet to come. But the coaching and the scheme has to be a little bit different. We have to get him on stationary receivers. And I agree with Smoot. We have to get players back in what they do best so they're in better position. That comes with coaching, not just technique. You have to coach that into players, okay? And just come out of the booth because the next thing is Dan Quinn got this job because he could call plays. We're going to take them calling plays duties from you. Because that's next.
Thanks, Jay. I got to run. I'm up against a really hard break. We want to get to Quinn. We'll carry his press conference next. All right, let's go out to Ashburn. Dan Quinn addressing the media.
What's up, everybody? All right. We'll begin today with some good news. Sam Cosme will begin his 21-day window. He got injured in January, and he has worked his ass off to get back on the field with teammates. It'll be great to have him back in practice. Also said I'd give you an update on Jaden. He's been medically cleared by the doctors. He'll practice full today. As far as other injuries and practice updates, we'll put out the injury report later today. And also wanted to give a big shout out and a welcome to Paul Taboni and the Nationals, and definitely pulling for those guys, I believe, as he's got started today. So glad to open up to you guys and get rolling.
What have you seen with Jaden over the last week or so, really, as he's dealt with this?
Just a steadfast approach to it, Nikki, first off, to put the work in to say, okay, I got to do all the things to do to get better. And then once you kind of get over the top of that, then the throw in the movements to go. So that's what we saw in terms of the work to get better.
And as far as the other guys, Terry, especially Noah, John Bates, where are they?
Yeah, all are trending up, and that's what I was referring to. I'll give you some updates on those tonight, but we're making good progress with those guys.
Dan, what will the next 48 hours be like in terms of what you're looking for from Jaden before you make a decision?
Just real back into the fold of it, David. He'll get all the reps at the practice, so we'll be back at a full speed, the execution, the timing, all of that. That's really what I'm looking for, but he's definitely chomping at the bit to get going. So, or just running the offense, being back to himself. That was our discussion today to make sure, man, like all the looks, all the calls, and the speed of the practice.
I know you understand his competitive nature, and I'm sure he understands your authority, but I wonder what those conversations are like when he's telling you I can go, and you're telling him, I hear you, but not yet.
Yeah. It's good that I've known him for, a year and a half now. I think, when you're first getting to know somebody, you're feeling that out, but knowing what his best looks like, and also, having trust, in one another to do that. And so I think that's a big piece of it.
Hi, Coach. You guys are heading into Los Angeles early. What is the benefit for your team to have that extra day of practice at the Coliseum already in Southern California?
Yeah, we decided that in the spring that we oftentimes like to, take an extended trip when we can. We had done it for a trip last year. We know, obviously, we're going, to Madrid. We'll do that one as an extended time. I think it's some good spaces for the team to get together. It's also, to get acclimated, to get ready. There's a big time change with that. And so we thought we would make that decision to go out early, get ourselves, fully ready, to go play at our best.
With working Cosme back into the lineup, you guys have had a lot of change on the offensive line. How difficult is that for maybe your signal callers to adapt to all those changes up front?
Yeah, it is part of it, and it's not what you want. Like you'd love for all the guys to play in their spots, but that's just not how it is. I think when we look around the NFL right now, there's a lot of moving parts, on all the teams, ours included, and Sam getting back into it is a step in that direction. But he also has to get back into rhythm and, the combinations and all the communication. So we're just pumped that he's put this kind of work in to allow him to, be ready to get back into with the group this quickly.
Over here.
Got it.
Last year, you guys were 7th, I believe, in the league in time of possession. That's not the case this year so far. With the return of presumably number 5, is that really what you want out of your squad, as to be able to keep that opposing defense off the field and do what you guys can do offensively?
Yeah, we like that, and we feel like offensively we're definitely making strides on our run game, on our run actions, the play actions that go with that. A good piece of that is also third down. That's one of the areas we really need to dig into, because now your drives are continuing. So those are a big piece of that. So yes, it's part of the formula for sure, Chick. Still feel like it's early days as we're going, and we've got plenty of work, that we need to put in, but that is certainly the goal for us. Yes.
With going out to LA early, does that change the timeline for you in terms of evaluating these injured guys who you don't know if they're going to go?
No, because we'll go through practice, as we get into tomorrow. But no, it doesn't change that time frame on that.
And then I wanted to ask you about Robbie Chosen and kind of more broadly that outside receiver spot. What do you envision for him? And then also, what's your level of comfort with guys like Luke and Jalen and even Debo playing in those outside receiver spots?
Yeah. The silver lining, that's maybe not the right word. Maybe we can think of another name for an added benefit, was with Noah and Terry missing some significant time early. I think it ramped up Jalen's space where he was able to even play outside some in the preseason. We did that with Debo, and Luke had already done some of that. So where at once we weren't as interchangeable, and now that we are, I think that's a good step, forward. Robbie's, some of the guys had experience with him, coaching with him before. Cliff has, Wes has. So we had some background with him. Came in, had an excellent workout. And so one of the things I appreciate from Adam, just always digging and competing to see, is there a spot to go? And sometimes it works out great. Other times we just keep competing and digging, but we're pumped Robbie's here, and he's working hard already to, learn it and grow. And there is some familiarity for him too.
Yeah, I know it's been a bumpy start for the season for the defense overall, but what gives you confidence that the unit will be able to turn it around moving forward for the rest of the year?
A lot of confidence. I thought, there's a lot of progress. I thought, with the exception of the second half on third down, that's a big piece of how you want to play. And I thought, in 2 games, the energy intensity has been what I'd hoped it would be in pass rush, and 2 others, not so much. And so that gives me a good sense of what I know it can look like. Had we not seen that, I might feel differently. So I've got plenty of confidence in how we want to play and what it will look like. And so I'm very much looking forward to seeing that.
Dan, in terms of the secondary and those back end guys, how do you improve communication? Like, how as a defensive minded coach and your staff, how can you help improve communication with the secondary guys?
Well, I think first it starts in meeting rooms to make sure when you make a call, like you're just echoing it, it's the collaboration, that you're working on together. You take that into the walkthrough portions and then onto the field. So you just emphasize it every way. It's not going back to walk, crawl, run, but it's just the emphasis of it over and over. Say it again. If you don't hear it, repeat it back. Communication is also sent and acknowledged. So if I give you a call, you're giving me a signal back. Some's verbal, some's nonverbal. So like most things, you get what you emphasize, and we're certainly going to dig in hard on that.
Curious about the balance and kind of the mindset of applying pressure in terms of when to throw a blitz, when to go more blitz heavy, when to rush 4. Take me through that balance of like over the course of a game or even a game plan. Like how does that plan kind of get constructed?
Well, some of it's based on the opponent, some on, your matchups and where you want to go. If you can rush with 4 and affect the QB, obviously that gives you some advantages in some ways because you have another defender, that you can use into coverage. Road, home, are they going with 6-man or 7-man to protect, or, 6, or 5? So all of that factors in. You want to have some balance, like most things, like an offense that has either all run or all pass. You want the balance to work on both. And I think the same thing on a good defense, that you want to have the ability to show a blitz, come out of it, show like you're in coverage, bring the blitz, and be able to get in and out of checks. So those are all things that make up a good defense, and you need a balance of both.
You're listening to Dan Quinn. He led with Jaden Daniels has been medically cleared, and he will practice today full go.
Balance between having the emphasis on this week as well as the patience on the long run.
Yeah, it's a great topic. One for all teams that you're starting to get your identity set. You really want to dig in on what that looks like. At the top for us, our central theme of the program is it's competition. And that's not just against the opponent. That's with ourselves, see how good we can get together as a team. I loved in the game against the Raiders, the complementary football, this return to a score, to working together. So the competitive nature of us doing it together, I think that allows you to not look too far down the road, see how good you can get. You work your skills, and we just try not to look down the road. It's about improvement and getting better. And when you can stay in that pocket, you don't have to look too far down the line. There's plenty to work on, right in front of you for the matchup, for the game. And so that's how we choose to dig in.
Dan, looking at Frankie Louisville, first couple of weeks seemed to have more pass rushes than the last couple of weeks. I don't know. I don't
know if that's true.
Okay,
Yeah.
just looking at the numbers, maybe.
Okay.
But I'm curious, like, has there been not a de-emphasis, but maybe more emphasis on him dropping into coverage? or would you like to see him rush a little bit more?
Yeah, I think it all depends on how to go to win. Like, obviously, I want him going forward as often as we can. But sometimes the game dictates that too, when he's rushing, when he's blitzing, how we're using him into those spaces. So, yeah, we always want to put him in positions to make plays. So, wherever that looks like, that's where we're at. But I don't think of him any more or less. I thought, honestly, last week he played really good and solid and square in the run game. But maybe there might not have been as many pass opportunities for him in that space.
With Marshawn, do you feel teams are going after him? And I guess that would be part one. And then two, how do you feel he has been performing?
Yeah. So part one, when you play middle field coverage, like both corners, get targeted to where you go. Sometimes it's their matchup. Sometimes it's ours. I don't feel that's been the case. And then the second part, can you repeat? Yeah. So I'd say when you play corner and you play offensive tackle, like there's a lot of plays that go good, that go unnoticed. And there's one that goes up top and it's like, there's one, or there's a sack. And like, that's part of, living life, outside. And what I do know about him, like this is one competitive guy, and like, he's always down for the challenge and for the fight. And so I'm looking forward to working with him again this week. And as we get rocking again.
Take 3 more.
Hey, Coach. So you've mentioned, September football. So now it's October. So what does October football, what's been the message around what you want to see this month?
Yeah, I think the execution, honestly, Candy, that's the big thing. I want to make sure the energy home road in terms of, how we want to play. And somebody brought up starting fast to me. Starting fast doesn't mean a touchdown on the first drive or a 3 and out. It's a speed and intensity and urgency to go. So I don't want to confuse what that would look like. But I do want to see the execution really, start to dig in. We've had 4 games together. Roles have now begun to emerge. And so it's a good month to go really dig in, to go get better. And now that some of those roles have emerged, that's a big deal for it. Some guys have had to step in, and I've liked what I've seen in some of those instances, Candy, to see guys step up when the injuries take place, knowing that that's a part of it. And the opportunity came early for some of the players. And so it's nice to see them deliver and show and express themselves. Hey man, I can help, I can do these things. And so I think that's been a big piece of it.
Hey, Coach, sticking with the injury situation, it's been challenging in this early part of the year. With some of those guys that have stepped in, do you have to tweak any of those things a little bit because of the injuries? You suffered another one last week with Jean Baptiste, and who will be filling in for him?
Yes, you do want to, not one size fits all, Donna, into that. So when somebody's featured in a different role or a different spot, it's not just, add water and the same result will take place. So you may have to do things a little bit differently. I think we maybe spoke about that a little bit with Austin and what that would look like. And then with Will. So with Javonte, in his case, we signed Preston a few weeks back. And so as he's progressing, those would be some snaps that would go his way.
Dan, when you have a guy like Jaden Daniels coming off an injury, obviously he wants to play out of the pocket. Obviously you want to use as many of his abilities as you can. Is there a way to balance that with protecting him and keeping him healthy, or is that something you can't be concerned about?
Yeah, I think you can. Not necessarily the calling of the game, but maybe I had said it a few weeks ago, the only thing worse than missing games is, not taking the lessons from there. And as a scramble goes, when do I get down? When do I get out of bounds? And so Jaden's still growing too, we feel like he's been playing for a while. And so as he's into his second year, like there's still things that he's growing on too. And that's kind of the fun and exciting part, that he hasn't anywhere near the top of what he's going to be. And so that lights me up, but those are some things, where do you grow? When do you take your shot? When do you not? And so, those are the lessons you want somebody to learn at quarterback or at any spot. And I certainly fully expect him to do that. That's the type of competitor he is. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Dan Quinn telling you right from the jump, Jaden Daniels has been medically cleared. He will practice full today. This is the first practice day in preparation for the Chargers on Sunday at 4:25. As it relates to the other 3 players, Terry, John Bates, Noah Brown, trending up, good progress. You'll see their status on the injury report later on today. And I guess we will be following that. But I would certainly guess, unless there is a setback, medically, Jaden Daniels practicing full today is a real sign he is going to be the starting quarterback Sunday against the Chargers, and we can start hopefully the process of a rest of the season, fingers crossed, another 13 games with, an offense led by their best player. And Marcus Mariota did a phenomenal job in relief against the Raiders and the Falcons. But if they're going to be what we thought they could be, or some of us thought they could be before the season started, they need number 5 at the helm. There's no doubt about that. There were a couple of other things. I did not realize they were heading to LA early. Talked about their opportunity to do that, with Madrid as well, but it was not as much the focus on getting to, a Western time zone early to prepare to acclimate. He did mention those things, but to spend more time together away from home. And he said they did that last year. Yeah, remember the game they did that last year was the Arizona game last year. Also, by the way, a week 4 game. They went west in week 4 last year. This is week 5, obviously, but it was close enough. It was September 29th, the game was last year. And they destroyed the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the Chargers are a better opponent, that's for sure. But remember the rushing output, the game in general, that was coming off also a Monday night win over the Cincinnati Bengals, sort of the big, coming out party for Jaden Daniels. But God, they went nuts in that game at Arizona, and was really one of those games where you're short week going west. Josh Harris committed to spending the extra money, something that Snyder certainly wasn't doing as an owner. There was a lot of praise for ownership in doing it that way. And Brian Robinson Jr. had a 100-yard-plus day. Jeremy McNichols went nuts. Jaden had another ridiculous completion percentage game. He was 26 of 30 in that game, and they rolled 42-14. This week could be different because the opponent's different for sure, but they're heading out there early. And he also was asked sort of where he is confidence-wise with the defense at this point. Do we have that soundbite? Okay, play that.
Yeah, I know it's been a bumpy start for the season for the defense overall, but what gives you confidence that the unit will be able to turn it around moving forward for the rest of the year?
A lot of confidence. I thought, there's a lot of progress. I thought, with the exception of the second half on third down, that's a big piece of how you want to play. I thought, in 2 games, the energy intensity has been what I'd hoped it would be in pass rush, and 2 others, not so much. And so that gives me a good sense of what I know it can look like. Had we not seen that, I might feel differently. So I've got plenty of confidence in how we want to play and what it will look like. And so I'm very much looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, look, he's got to publicly be confident, and I'm not saying that he's stretching the truth, but the answer can't be inside that building because they had a great pass rush against 2 woeful offensive lines the day they played them. I mean, the Giants didn't have their best offensive lineman, Andrew Thomas. The Raiders were a bad offensive line going into the game and didn't have their top guard playing in the game. He was active, but he didn't play in the game. You got to, I would think, certainly you can be misled by those results. And I think the truth was, sort of played out that way in the game against Atlanta on Sunday, where they didn't have much pass rush. Now, the Chargers are really banged up along the offensive line. They lost arguably one of the best tackles in the game in Slater before the season started. They lost Joe Alt on Sunday after about 10 snaps against the Giants. So they have a bit of a makeshift offensive line they'll be going with Sunday. That could be an opportunity for the defense to have another good outing, stopping the run and getting after Justin Herbert. The Giants really took advantage of that. Herbert was the most pressured quarterback in the league on Sunday. He's actually been the most pressured quarterback over the last 2 games in the league against the Giants and the Broncos. But the Giants and the Broncos are better defensive teams, talent-wise, than Washington is. They won that Denver game. They won that Denver game with some incredible Justin Herbert magic at the end of the game, down 7, driving for a game-tying touchdown on an incredible throw to Keenan Allen for a touchdown, and then getting the ball back and getting into field goal range for the game winner. The Giant game, it was very self-destructive. The Giants really dominated the line of scrimmage, and they got after Herbert because of that banged-up offensive line for sure, but the Chargers had 14 penalties in the game. They had 2 turnovers. They struggled at a lot of things that were more some of the demise was their own doing. Now, some of those penalties were caused by the Giants and the turnovers as well. But yeah, there was an opportunity. As poor as they were in the game, there was still an opportunity for them to win that game, in part because Jackson Dart was playing his first game, and he was not great in this game. Took a bunch of sacks, didn't see it, was good as a rusher, actually came out of the game briefly, and Russell Wilson went in for a couple of plays. But Sunday, man, is a fascinating matchup. I just thought that answer was interesting, where he focused on 2 pretty, incapable opponents along the offensive line. We might get a third Sunday. I think that's the reason the line is short. I think that there is a real possibility that Washington defensively ends up having a much better game than it had Sunday because of the issues the Chargers O-line has. But of course, the big reason is that Jaden Daniels is coming back. Oh, Sam Cosmi, 21-day window, ACL injury in that Detroit game. It would be nice to get him back fully healthy as well. I think it's going to be important that they get, at least Terry back or Noah Brown back. Get, 1 or 2 of the 3 back for Sunday. I think that would be big. All right, we're done for the day. Back tomorrow. Chris Russell's next.